Regressor of the Fallen Family. Chapter 45. Did you see that? This is a much faster method. It'll naturally cover the census too. That it will. Why are you looking at me like that? I'm just amazed. Recently, young Lord has been surprising me time and again. I should be less surprised by now. Heh. Stop your foolish talk. Oh, and make sure to distribute food to those in the territory who are injured or can't come for labor service, all right? Starting this year, no one in our territory should die from hunger. There are already enough right there. Yes, I understand. I was just worried that the people of the territory may become lazy pigs. Yes, I get it. Stop looking at me like that. Cheech! Logan clicked his tongue, narrowing his eyes. Anyway, if we wait a little longer, we'll be able to carry out the construction properly. Thanks to the Treasury Administrator placing such trust in me. Don't even start with that construction. Oh, you're going to end up doing it anyway. Please think it over again, will you? Why spend 2 million gold to drill a hole in the mountain each month? No, we're doing it. No matter what you say, it's futile. Young Lord. Dwayne was frustrated by the absurd construction and the wasteful spending that couldn't be stopped. Logan, having easily dismissed Dwayne's resistance, turned his gaze westward. Even if it's not time for the scrolls, having Clayton is enough. The other materials ordered through Philip had already arrived. It was finally time to start drilling through the mountain. Now 1, 2, 3, or a cha-cha. With shouts, tents rose up in unison. Far from the construction site chosen by Hammer and Logan, numerous tents mushroomed rapidly in the wasteland. The chosen location, midway between Teslon Castle, which was 1.5 days away, and MacLine Castle, which was a day away, made temporary accommodations for the workers essential, not a choice. And of course, suitable accommodations for the crucial mages had to be prepared as well. Are you sure you want the mages to have the same conditions as labor? It's fine, young lord. After all, our Earth Tower is called the Laborers among Mages, and our faction has done the most work there. You've seen the Tower Lord freak out. I suppose it's one less thing for me to worry about, haha. Leave it to me. I'll finish the job quickly and perfectly. Clayton's grim face bore a firm gaze that felt incredibly reliable. And the very next morning, the gaze of nearly 8,000 people summoned from the two castles gathered upon a corner of the wilderness hill. To dig a straight tunnel, this spot is perfect. If we calculate the range and cause a collapse around this center, we can. Dwarf sir, with my magic, we can have a much larger range, you know? No, that's too much of a collapse, you mage sir. The tunnel doesn't need to be that big. A semicircle about 30 meters in diameter would be enough. Come on, trust me, and let's make it big and refreshing. Ha, this is going to be troublesome. The dwarf and the mage were coordinating their opinions for the construction. Logan, a step behind them, watched over the pair with contentment. Beside him stood a large administrative officer with a dazed look, surveying the surroundings. You're really pushing ahead. What will you do when the head of the family finds out? It'll be fine, don't worry. I give up. Do whatever you want. Dwayne muttered helplessly as the construction finally began. What are they doing there? I don't know. The higher-ups must have some plan. The local peasants, who had never seen nor heard of magic, looked at Clayton with curiosity. Magician, sir, if you're ready, begin immediately. Following Hammer's signal, a bright yellow light began to emit from Clayton's body. Wow, what's this? Wow, that's magic. It's not some disaster, is it? There's the young lord. It'll be fine. Mixed with wonder and fear, the workers couldn't take their eyes off Clayton. Then, Logan felt the change caused by Clayton's power. The flow of mana. Natural energy. Ziran Chi. Mana. Alrune with the Force, one of the two great powers called the Supernaturals, controlled by humans on the continent. The flow of energy that he could barely feel in his past life was now vividly alive. The 5 mana rings engraved on Clayton's heart. Logan could clearly see the mana originating from them, stirring up matching energies scattered throughout the world. The gathering of strength through an intricate yet specific pattern happened many times in a fleeting moment. Even the minute flow did not escape his force-imbued hypersenses, which were advancing beyond Logan's estimations. While he felt this remarkable sensation, the direction Clayton raised his hand towards turned earthen as light slowly moved towards a rock face. When the light touched the rock, the earth began to vibrate. The light soon spread across the entire rock face. With a tremendous roar and a rumbling sound, the world seemed to shake amidst the blast. "Ah, get down!" To think it would come to this. As workers scattered in a panic amidst the flying dust, Hammer's bellow could be heard from amidst them. "Take it easy! That's too powerful. Why show off your strength in vain like this?" As Hammer flared up, Logan sensed an even stronger flow of mana. A different spell? From within the dust clouds rose a stronger energy than before, signaling the formation of something massive. Giant rocks and earth crumbled from the rock face, assembled into a colossal being. Through the dust, a shadow loomed about 20 meters tall. The colossal golem started thudding towards the rock face, crashing into the epicenter of the explosion. The echoes of its movements resonated from within the rock face. "What's happening? What on earth is going on now?" The panicked voices of workers filled the air, and after a little time, the dust settled to reveal the source of the noise. "A monster! It's a monster! Ah! Is this the wrath of the mountain spirits? Please save us, spirits!" Within a gouged-out rock face, several tens of meters wide, a giant made of earth and stone frightened the workers enough to freeze in fear. With the ground above the rock face seemingly about to collapse, they didn't even realize what was happening. "What are you all standing around dazed for? Rush over and secure the ground." Clayton's command, along with his disciples' actions, emitting bright yellow light towards the cave ceiling, stirred the workers to pull themselves together and rise. Is that magic? Haw. Scary. Was magic always so mighty? Amidst their terror-stricken admiration, actually committed to it. Io, head of the family. Alrune, with a unique reaction, an administrative officer chuckled as if losing his mind, waking Logan from his daze. The pattern of mana carved into his mind continued to linger. The idea that he could emulate such magic with the power of force, given its growth, trickled through his thoughts. Thinking I could learn a spell that mana-born sages spent decades researching and studying, his rational mind immediately dismissed the notion. No matter how exceptional the divine sword's secrets, that's impossible. A moment after shaking off that fantasy, Clayton's magical feat once again struck his eyes. Such a golem. The massive golem looked truly remarkable even to Logan. Unlike the common folk who had never seen such a thing before, Logan, who had witnessed countless forms of magic in his previous life, was deeply impressed. A fifth circle mage can do this? A golem, to his knowledge, was an artifact made by gathering stones or dirt around a magical stone, including a mage stone, as its core. Yet the giant Clayton created with his magic far exceeded any such golem he knew. Not only did Logan perceive many spells on the battlefield in his past life, he even saw powerful, superhuman sixth circle mages invoke storms of fire to devastate battlegrounds. But they didn't evoke the shock of this moment. An exaggerated golem could hold up a mountain. The might it would show if it were brought to war would surely surpass that of a mere storm of flames. It doesn't seem to be a one-off either. Thanks to his connection with Force, which let him see mana, Logan understood the mechanics of how Clayton's magic manifested. Admittedly, he didn't fully grasp the complex process of mana transformation starting from the rings in his heart. However, he could sense that the core at the heart of the massive golem resonated continuously with Clayton's own circle. The golem began to move again as soon as the terrain hardened above. Thud. It then proceeded to push aside the scattered rocks and soil from the collapse. Despite its impressive height of about 20 meters, it looked somewhat squashed due to its breadth at shoulder height being about half that size. but the giant's strength, born from its bulk, easily cleared away the debris of the rock face. Such magic, such a mage, how did I not know in my past life? It was a natural question for Logan. The versatile and powerful fifth circle magic seemed far more useful than the common sixth circle spells. Why? No matter how hard he thought, the answer eluded him. But there was one clear fact. I desire it. What an enviable talent. Such magic would naturally inspire greed, considering they were utilizing such a premium worker at no cost right now. Hence, Logan could sincerely smile brightly at Clayton. Elder, truly formidable. To think I would witness such magic in this world? You've opened my eyes. Well, as leader of our Golem faction, this is basic, young lord. Didn't I assure you? Haha, indeed. Those like the Tower Lord may only see negatives, but our faction's accomplishments stand proudly against the world. Clayton's face remained stoic, barely hinting at pride, if not for the sweat trickling from his scar. Hiding any pity, Logan gave 2 thumbs up. Ha 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 ha. Elder, I never doubted you. Rather, I'm even more astonished than I thought. Clayton's lips curled ever so slightly, a face mostly expressionless to most, but through recent weeks and disciples' explanations, Logan understood that expression meant Clayton was genuinely pleased. Truly dependable. Are your disciples able to use the same magic? Thus, seizing the moment, Logan did not shy from asking what might be rude or secret. Now only using basic magic to stabilize the crumbling terrain, Clayton's disciples, if they could cast even a weak version of the Golem spell, would speed up the planned construction than anticipated. However, they can indeed cast it, but, there's a slight issue. Yes? The core of the Golem requires a 5th circle manuscript, so my disciples need Magistones. Even so, they will be much smaller and weaker. Clayton's response left Logan dumbstruck. Mana crystals? Mana crystals, Mo Jing Shi, were as rare as the divine metal orichalcum, or mithril, being minerals imbued with natural energy mana. They were almost priceless due to their scarcity, the inability to manufacture them artificially, and the constant need for magic or crafting artifacts. While graded by the concentration of mana, even the lowest grade Magistone was more expensive than equal volumes of gold. Sigh. This isn't cost effective. This isn't. But whoever waged a war considering cost effectiveness? If the effect is good, that's what matters. If money can increase the power. Logan briefly forgot that Clayton and his disciples were merely employees. Elder, even your magic? Indeed. At my level, if I use an appropriate Magestone, the Golem's power can be amplified several times over, enhancing strength, speed, and duration. Wow, that is truly incredible. Logan genuinely marveled, and while externally showing his amazement, internally he rapidly calculated. If the Golems could move just a few times faster than now, they could wipe out any knight. Impressive! Such power would be unquestionable in war, no matter the cost. But as mentioned, it requires Magistones suited for it. What kind of Magistones do you mean? Well, the highest grade, fitting a 5th circle. That might be a problem. A 5th-sized highest grade Magistone cost anywhere between 500,000 to 1,000,000 gold. The moment Logan understood why the Golem faction was always struggling, still Logan had not given up hope. Perhaps your disciples also need such? Of course not. 2nd circle Golem magic only requires a low-grade Magistone. It should last a day and can exert several times the strength of an average man. These low-grade Magistones, the size of a fist if assumed, cost about as much as a lump of gold. In gold terms, that was nearly 1,000 gold. Such a price for simply a few times a man's strength, and with just a day's duration? Still not quite cost-effective. But if it's for a short-term battle, it could surely deliver much more. Despite all the downsides, the vision of Golem magic on the battlefield was compelling. What if my side had it? Logan unknowingly shivered slightly at the thought. However, they belong to the tower. Tsk. Returning to reality, Logan licked his lips and had no choice but to turn away. Regressor of the Fallen Family. Chapter 46. Even though Logan's ambitions to fully integrate Clayton and the Golem faction into his forces had ended in fantasy, the sheer power displayed in the current construction project was unsurpassed, making any cost-performance comparison unnecessary. With Clayton's giant golem around, there was no need to risk deploying workers there. It's practically handling the biggest part on its own. Even if Clayton was exceptional among them, Logan had a new appreciation for why the labor costs of a Fifth Circle mage were so exorbitant. They were a different dimension in terms of productivity compared to even the highest level knights. Knights who know nothing but the sword. While mentally decrying knights, Logan suddenly coughed to cover his sudden realization that he himself fell into that very category. His cough seemed to bring yet another loud noise to life. Boom! Rumble, rumble. Once more, a thunderous roar that seemed to turn the world upside down filled the air. Amidst the noise, a giant creature's movements revealed its presence, and screams could be heard from all around. Eek! Mother, I want to go home. Ted, catch that thing. How many in its family? Hey, you! Workers that had been gathered with difficulty collapsed in terror at the harrowing sight created by Clayton's golem. Among them was Dwayne, still with a look of utter defeat in his eyes. I must report to the head of the family. Seeing Dwayne trembling in the worker's disheveled state, Logan let a smirk escape without meaning to. The tunnel construction will be sufficient with just Clayton. There seemed to be no need to engage additional workers. Take all the workers to dig the canal. There's no need to leave anyone for the tunnel construction. Logan's current construction plans were to have the tunnel and dam completed as designed, so the water could flow throughout the wastelands that were going to be developed. The plan was to split the 8,000 workers between tunnel and canal construction, but it now seemed the plans could be altered. It looks like completion will be ahead of schedule. A pleasant premonition brought a smile to Logan's face. Yes! Hammer, who had been absent-mindedly watching the golem, was a little late to catch on to Logan's order and started rounding up the workers. This, too, turned out to be good news for them. Canal? Where is the water supposed to be? I mean, we can do it if ordered. Does this make any sense? Why bore holes in the mountain for nothing, and why overturn the soil? Hey, stop nagging. It beats lugging rocks, right? Besides, rumble, rumble. While the noise continued, the territory's people looked at the cliff generating the noise and shuddered before turning away. Everyone shared the same sentiment. Even if it was on their side, how could one not be terrified of a magical beast created by a mage? A single mistake from the over 20-meter tall giant could mean an eternal farewell from this world. Let's just dig, right? Confident in that? Sure. The task of digging evenly spaced canals across the vast wasteland, which was estimated to span over 800 square kilometers and far beyond, carrying a width of over 40 kilometers, would not have been an easy task, even with the employment of the 8,000 workers. Yet, at this moment, not one person thought it would be difficult. Master, Lord, Master Patrick, come on. Bang, bang, bang! The urgency in Dwayne's pounding on the firmly locked door was palpable. Rumble, rumble. The distant sound of thunder made his knocking all the more frantic. The young lord is blowing up the territory. His voice now sounded almost pitiful. Bang! Bang! Please open the door. Thud. What has Logan done? Splat. The forceful knocking turned into a punch that drove flesh into flesh. Startled by the unfamiliar impact, Dwayne looked up to face a fist embedded in one of his eyes and a pair of angry red pupils staring back at him. Arr! Goosebumps erupted all over Dwayne's body as he leaped back in a bizarre scream, prompting a concise critique from Patrick. My apologies. It was a mistake. I'm truly sorry, Master. To think that I, who devote myself day and night to training, could be so careless. Seems I still have much to learn. Dwayne, it's as if you've awakened me. No, I didn't mean it like. Well then, shall we go inside and discuss this matter in more detail? Me too? Of course. Click. Creak. The moment before, Dwayne had been loudly pleading for the door to be opened. but now the door seemed like the gates of hell as it noisily swung open. Sabotage stories had it that Triton's territory made its doors out of ironwood, over 1 meter thick, and that inside lay an equally gray and menacing interrogation room. Really, I don't need to go inside. It's fine. Come in. At Patrick's urging, a reluctant Dwayne stepped into the training room. Kriek. Dwayne felt a new shiver run down his spine as the door closed with a gentle smile and noise. Because it wouldn't do for blood to splatter outside? The softly spoken words that leaked through the closing gap echoed down the empty hall. Thud. Master? A voice that seemed to scream from outside reached faintly through the thickly shut door. After that day, MacLane's financial administrator Dwayne was bedridden with an inexplicable malaise and unable to return to work for a time. Something seemed strangely quiet with my father. Did the Ironblood sword and the arcane visibly cure him? Despite Dwayne's commotion multiple times, there was no response from the other side. Well, no response is even better. As Logan was smiling contentedly, a trembling sensation crept up from the ground beneath him. Grumble. The delayed sound reverberated as the surrounding workers began moving about in turmoil. Go, back to your stations. If Hammer comes out, start with clearing the collapsed rocks. Around Logan, workers smeared with soot and grime hurriedly scrambled about. It was the mining operation, not the new dam project, that had already been underway for some time. The mine, secretly staffed with workers from the Teslon stronghold, was unbeknownst to the MacLine stronghold and was rapidly progressing with the arrival of a catastrophic scroll. It was bound to be the greatest source of future funds. The dam has Clayton and the mine hammer. Everything seemed to be flowing smoothly. Then, into Logan's view staggered a dwarf, blackened as though doused in ink, dragging itself wearily forth. Ah, Hammer, you've worked hard. Ah, I can't take any more. Just kill me. Eh? Can I even rest? Can the work not proceed without me? Why must I be the only one slaving away like this? Logan, bewildered, could only stare at the unruly dwarf. Treated like cargo? Can't ride anything but ponies, so that ruthless human force tied me to one and made me travel back and forth between the tunnel and here. Ah. Watching the captain of the mine's mercenary guards, Kai, wince, Logan understood what had happened. It wasn't tough to guess why Hammer was grinding his teeth at the mere sight of him. Sensing the unfolding drama, Logan, a master of compassion, brushed off the servile uprising with a chuckle. That's right, you've been working hard, so from now on, you take charge of everything. Just report to me on the progress, and that'll suffice. What? Although Hammer had made an offhand comment about Logan not doing anything, in reality, Logan had been busily filling gaps, supplying materials, and overseeing work at the 2 construction sites, which was no small hassle. And having the lord of the territory oversee the work, whether present or not, made a significant difference in the laborer's efficiency. To separately manage that. This is all the tedious work for me, huh? As Hammer's tongue twisted with anger. Cheer up. I seriously promise you'll get a good rest once the work is finished. Does a good rest mean in the underworld, or just getting some acupuncture treatment? Confusion and rage swirled in Hammer's mind. But before the poor slave could articulate his situation, the cruel owner had vanished without looking back. Only then did the dwarf's outraged roar erupt. Damned spoil of Nee percentin. The mine's development would surely outpace the past, though the dam is a concern. As Logan brooded, he shook his head. No, it will work. It has to. If the wasteland venture failed, the MacLine family would be forced to squeeze out all resources, regardless of rumors, and prepare for war. Hoping for the plan's success to afford a bit more leeway, Logan began to consider both failure and success scenarios for the dam and started redrafting his future plans. Moments later, resolved, Logan made his way to the location housing the territory's only artifact, the communication orb. The construction materials will be delivered without any issues. I've easily agreed to a monthly rate of 100,000 gold, given our existing timber trade. Anyway, once the mine's set up and the wasteland is developed, the territory will change drastically. I ought to visit sometime. That's great. You should come next year. Yet another comment about next year. What are you basing these remarks on? Not that you'd tell me if I asked. No, now I actually have to tell you. It's a dangerous matter. Oh? When I was at the Sword Guild, I heard some troubling news. Of course, Logan had never heard such a thing, but it was a necessary lie for the story he needed to tell. Troubling news? Is there no one around to hear you? The security in the tower is solid, even if the Earth Tower is failing. There are rumors of a problem with the royal family. What? That means? Philip's expression tensed noticeably at the deliberate ambiguity of Logan's words. I don't know the details, but seems it's a rather serious matter. While conducting trade, try to pick up any rumors coming from the royal sphere. Logan's memories of his previous life indicated a civil war breaking out next winter following the sudden death of the king, but as a mere low-level mercenary back then, he had no guarantee the information was accurate. The only certain detail was the king's demise. If the king truly died suddenly, as I heard, it will play out the same. But if not, there might be signs before it occurs. Just like the unexpected alterations in the outbreak of the territorial war with Teslan, the timing of the civil war must not shift without cause. If history changed, even the smallest hint of when turmoil might erupt was crucial. I have to know, so I can start at the right time. For the MacLine family to upheave the kingdom's power structure in the coming war. Don't bother asking Knox, he'll likely demand too much and draw suspicion. Just feel out the nobles bit by bit while trading. That should suffice. Take extreme caution and contact me immediately with any developments. Understood. This seems quite serious. And the lead into this conversation was also a stepping stone for what was yet to come. How much is left over from Impo Rick's net profit after deducting construction material costs, food purchases, and funds sent to the tower? Eh? Well, there's a surplus of about 1.8 million gold. Then set aside 500,000 as an emergency fund, and buy as many spears, swords, and armors as you can afford to send over. At Logan's words, Philip's face darkened even more. Is the royal issue really that serious? Possibly so. Anyway, send equipment enough to fully arm 1,500 men by this winter. This isn't a joke. A joke? Spread out your purchases and collect them separately. It might cost more, but that's fine. Buying so much weaponry at once could attract unwanted attention. Logan's tone deepened Philip's expression, but still, the merchant couldn't resist an objection. But 1,500 men? I believe there are fewer than 100 knights in the MacLine family, if I'm not mistaken. It's not for the knights. It's for the soldiers. Hearing that, Philip reacted almost violently. You're going to fully arm all the soldiers? Have you lost your mind? Whatever serious mood had been there vanished, replaced by incredulity, making Logan suppress a smirk. Well, one could see it that way. A properly forged metal spear and sword, chainmail to protect vital body points, and additional metal armor. Even basic equipment, if of good quality, would cost nearly 1,000 gold per person. And they need horses too. That would double the budget. In essence, Logan was planning to invest close to 3 million gold by winter to provide knight-level equipment to his soldiers. But even so, can the soldiers beat the knights? With that money, you could make gear for the knights, an objection that was only to be expected at this moment. Current warfare was dominated by extraordinary beings like knights and mages. Although there were trainees enduring harsh training with dreams of knighthood, regular soldiers were mere supports for the knights. Spending such a huge sum on soldier gear, that's foolish. With so much money, you have to spend it efficiently. You who once crafted a weapon to sweep away ordinary soldiers, what are you thinking? Such a reaction was, in some ways, completely justifiable. Yet Logan had different thoughts. Too many territory citizens died in the last war. The first war after his return was won relatively easily through preparations, but the death toll among regular soldiers was higher than expected. Though largely due to Teslan deploying even conscripts, These losses reduced the expected yields from the territory for the year, largely because those dead included males from Teslon's stronghold. That's why I need to minimize conscription. Future wars couldn't continue, relying on consuming conscripts. It would be self-sabotage. Besides, once the empire-wide war starts, poorly equipped conscripts would be literal cannon fodder. The escalating expense of properly arming soldiers may seem excessive to some, but to Logan, it was a surefire investment in the survival and future success of his territory's people and his family's ambitions.
Chapter 47. Where am I? Who is this place? An overwhelming stack of documents, enough to obscure one's vision. The grand assembly of massive papers was more dizzying to Logan's mind than any curse could be. Thud. The mechanical stamping of his seal on document after document, while his gaze aimlessly drifted through the void, was a Sisyphean task. But, are you even checking what you're stamping? Hey, that document is concerning the castle's repair issues. We haven't even discussed that. Young lord, are you going to keep working carelessly? The demon of paperwork continued to wring him dry with no intention of letting up. Ah, I've never seen my father work to such an extent, Logan protested, albeit belatedly, as he realized the sense of disconnect from what was happening. Of course not. Most of it is handled at my level. What? The absurd response provoked a fiery glare from Logan's reddened eyes. Why are you dumping all this on me then? Because you're going to be the heir, you need to know everything about the territory. I'm not the heir. Come on, who would acknowledge that? Instead of conceding, Dwayne roared back, and Logan's mind went blank. Ah, is that how it is? It's not about recognizing me as the heir, it's about recognizing that I'm not the heir. Just as confusion began to blend into his logic, Dwayne relentlessly pressed on. There's been a lot of backlog due to the aftermath. Some of it also involves properties from Teslon Castle. A number of those managers were in cahoots with Haman Teslon, and given how many there were, we decided to do a complete overhaul. As Dwayne grumbled on, Logan felt a throbbing headache threatening to take over. And with a shortage of administrators, squeezing as much as we can, it feels like we might survive thanks to you overseeing some of this. Familiar words of flattery emerged, following several days of being pushed to the brink. However, Dwayne's tactics didn't work this time. It feels like I'm the one dying here. Then, when you become the Lord later, please hire more administrators. Or now would be good too. Haha. Ugh. Due to your policies, there's an influx of paperwork. It has to be on a grand scale, considering we haven't even finished dealing with the aftermath. Dwayne's insidious chuckle provided a transparent glimpse into his ploy. Referencing the dam construction, he had keenly assessed that Logan would be unable to intervene further. Fine, do it, but this had better be the end, right? After this, the construction business is done? If not, he was ready to put an end to him. The threat, laden with the intent to kill, made Dwayne reluctantly nod. After the harrowing stint of acting lord finished and filled with malicious intent from the chief administrator, Logan dragged his weary body up to the ancestral burial grounds, taking up his sword against the setting sun. Once the construction finishes, I'll recruit soldiers. His head was packed with strategies to strengthen the family's military force, but when swinging his sword, he forced himself to concentrate solely on the moment. I must become stronger too. He needed the strength to face the overwhelming foes he had encountered in his past life. Attracting such caliber of people to his side was another solution, but that was no simple feat. Not even a single piece of information had surfaced from the requests he left with Nox. I must become more powerful, if only with arcane strength. Though the vague hope seemed far-fetched, fortunately, as he focused increasingly on his training, Logan could feel his sword strikes becoming more powerful and his movements more refined. His force-augmented senses were so sharp that he could detect even the slightest changes in himself. To Logan, training was a process wherein faint hope gradually turned into reality. Thus, the intense training that pushed his physical limits to the brink paradoxically felt like a respite for his mind. Of course, this was made possible because through the practice of meditative training, he could completely alleviate the fatigue that had accumulated, effectively replacing sleep. And so Logan's days passed by busily. As the pile of documents to process dwindled, the time he spent as a stand-in lord decreased, and his training hours increased. It was around this time that an ill-omened piece of news flew in. An accident? Logan sprang to his feet, jolted by the news that broke in during his work hours. Yes, one of the mine shafts collapsed. A sign things were going too smoothly, I suppose. When did we get a mine in our territory? But why? Why did it collapse? How serious is the accident? What's Hammer doing? Although collapsed scrolls were used, they were deployed under strict supervision by Hammer, enough to use only what was needed. If a dwarf was overseeing stability as the priority in mine development, how could an accident occur? Well, it's where Hammer was, but sir, I've heard about it, but what kind of mine? Hammer? Why didn't you lead with that? Thump. Logan darted out of the office like the wind. He couldn't just stand by and give orders from behind when not only workers, but a valuable asset like Hammer were trapped. He simply cannot die. The cogwheel of his grand plan would be thrown off if they lost Hammer at such a critical moment. It was an absolutely unforeseeable disaster. A dwarf causing a mine shaft collapse during work? What kind of joke is... Bubbling with rage and struggling to keep his composure, Logan spurred his horse on swiftly. Back in the office, the finance administrator alone grappled with his thoughts, tormented by the news of an accident at a mine he didn't even know existed. What kind of mine is it? Thud, 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 thud. Impelled by urgency with a mix of force in his whip, Logan's prized black steed, Fireland, managed to cover a 2-hour distance in just half an hour. Foam at its mouth notwithstanding, Logan did not look back, urging the horse straight to where a crowd had gathered. Nay! Make way! It's the young lord! Stand back! The workers quickly cleared a path upon recognizing Logan. Where's the collapsed mine shaft? If you go inside, it's the middle one of the 3 forks, the deepest one. Not waiting to hear the full response, Logan dashed forward. Scarcely lit by dim lanterns, the ambiance grew even darker due to the accident, making the feeble lights near the shaft invisible. However, Logan's golden eyes penetrated the shadows, and he raced through the darkness, unimpeded. Before long, he found miners tapping on a rock wall in the glow of their lanterns, trying to break through. How did this happen? Shush, any more noise could cause another collapse. It was Pale, one of the mining experts rescued from Teslon Castle. What's going on? At his caution, Logan inquired in a softer tone. We don't know for sure. Hammer went down into the shaft like usual. He seemed a bit off. He's been overworked lately. Maybe a mistake with the collapsed scroll? Hammer, more proficient in reading ground conditions than a 5th Circle Earth Mage, making a mistake? Unbelievable. Yet the rock pile in front of him was a harsh reality. So, what's the current situation? How much of it collapsed? Could be more than 50 meters. It seems the magic scrolls caused the support beams to fall too. Luckily, the chain reaction stopped, but the other supports need checking. If we leave things as they are, the rescue operation alone could take days. 50 meters? The rest of his words barely registered. Logan knew he might be able to do something about that distance. Move aside. Huh? If you're planning to use a scroll right now. I'm not stupid, move. After they heeded the assertive tone in his low voice, Logan placed his hand on the rock pile and concentrated. A subtle force surged forth, weaving between the rock debris. With his amplified senses fully heightened, Logan reached out with tendrils of force, searching for a familiar aura. After what seemed both a brief and interminably long moment, he let out a sigh of relief. Deep within the crumbled rock, he certainly felt Hammer's presence, along with about a dozen workers sharing a similar warmth. They're all alive. Realizing the worst-case scenario was avoided, Logan allowed himself a moment of relief. But a lot of them are injured, Hammer included. He's unconscious and seems to be bleeding too. Damn it. What, young lord? How could you? How long will it take to clear this and get Hammer out? At least a week, no, 3 days at best. And that's if everything goes smoothly. Without Hammer, it's unlikely. The miners all nodded in agreement at Logan's gaze, forcing him to grind his teeth. Even for a robust dwarf like Hammer, being trapped under a rock pile and bleeding for more than 3 days wasn't promising. The biggest issue remained, though. Is there enough air? Can they breathe? Delaying meant he couldn't guarantee the survival of Hammer or the workers. What to do? A clear course of action sprung to mind. He had the most suitable personnel in his employ, an earth magician. Yet he faced a fierce internal struggle. What if the secret leaks while mobilizing the mages? The mine's existence was not yet meant to be revealed to the outside world. Could he trust these mages, mere short-term hires? Perhaps it would be better to direct his knights under the guidance of the miners. But hastiness might trigger a secondary collapse, presenting an even worse scenario. There was no better option than calling on the earth mages. Either way, I have to save Hammer. At that moment, that was paramount. There was no one to replace Hammer in sight. I must take some risks, and beyond all plausible reasons. A lesson from his previous life etched in his mind was clear. If you can't protect those closest to you, you'll end up alone. Right, that's the way. The turmoil within quickly dissipated. Logan bit his lip resolutely and hurried out the mine shaft. The great young Lord Logan! Thud, 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 thud. Even as he sped by on horseback, the workers greeted him, but there was no time to respond. Oh, Logan, it's been a while. Clayton, could I have a word with you in private? His urgent request cut the pleasantries short, compelling Clayton to step away momentarily from the construction site. A mine and an accident? Hearing Logan's brief explanation, Clayton shook visibly, taken aback. But there was no time to dwell. Yes, Clayton, please, save Hammer and the workers. I will make sure you are richly rewarded. I implore you. Ah, so the dwarf was running to and fro between here and there. I see. Ha, understood. It's urgent if lives are at stake. I'll help. Thank you. Your compensation will be certain. Clayton looked anew at Logan, who was bowing his head. A mine? It struck him as odd they hadn't used collapse scrolls at all. There was something more to it, and if developing a mine was the case, it all made sense. The mine must be no ordinary copper mine to keep it so secretive. Even if it were copper, revealing such a guarded secret to save a slave and some workers, going to the lengths of promising compensation and bowing to a mere hired mage, was no mean feat. He's not your typical noble. Clayton had been aware of Logan's abilities since joining him in the territory. The breadth of spirit he showed, ensuring contracted workers were fed instead of forced, had already earned his respect. Moreover, the young man's actions in this crisis impressed him further. Impressive! He was the most exceptional youth Clayton had encountered recently. With his wealth, even if the dam construction fails, this territory will continue to prosper. Seeing such a youth filled him with a pleasant feeling he sometimes feared was a sign of age, but it was not unwelcome. Grek, signal the others. We all go together. Clayton acted swiftly, proof of his experience. Editor's musings. Sisyphean task, never-ending task.
Regressor of the Fallen Family. Chapter 48. Hap! With a spirited shout, a bright yellow light surged forth, ceasing even the faint intermittent vibrations that had been trembling through the tunnels. Good. I will sustain the tunnel. Use the golems. Upon Clayton's command, the disciples standing behind him stepped forward in unison, each taking out a fist-sized blue crystal from within their clothes. Magic crystals! Logan's eyes gleamed as he saw them. As they chanted incantations with eyes wide open, they threw the magic crystals at the collapsed pile of rocks at once. Grr, grr, grr. Accompanied by a grating noise, a significant part of the rock pile before their eyes was reborn into 10 stone giants, each over 2 meters tall. Ooh, truly magic. The astonished voices of the onlooking miners could be heard. Logan watched the magicians with a similar sense of awe. Just creating golems has cleared out several meters worth of rock pile. Moreover, we don't know the condition of the people. Hurry! Yes! As soon as the disciples responded robustly to Clayton's order, the stone giants, the golems, began to move forward, lifting the rock pile one after another. Thud, thud. Grr, grr, grr! The stone giants moved much faster than the miners, and they possessed the monstrous strength to easily lift boulders as big as a human body. As they exhibited their incredible strength without worrying about a secondary collapse, the work naturally progressed much faster than it would have with dozens of human miners involved. Oh, Logan, who had only seen battlefield mages in his past life, was newly impressed by the usefulness of the Golem School magicians. As if responding to his admiration, the golems swiftly cleared the collapsed rock pile, and within not even 2 hours, Logan was able to face the survivors. "We're alive! Ivan, Pomarov! Roble, you're alive too!" When the survivors embraced other miners with cheers. Logan, too, checked on the fallen hammer's condition and sighed in relief. "Just some bruises and minor internal injuries. He must have passed out from the shock. How fortunate." Once his primary concern faded, Logan was freshly astounded by the scene before him. A mining collapse of significant scale had been swiftly resolved within 5 hours. Considering that over 3 hours of that time were spent on Logan being informed and on Clayton and the mages coming to the mine for support, the actual time spent on the work was less than 2 hours. Definitely impressive. As the work of lifting the rocks was completed and he saw the golems aiding the victims, Logan couldn't help but express his admiration over and over. I want it. Being a mage of the earth, others might not know, but surely Clayton must have realized that this was a gold mine. When Clayton had momentarily flinched while using the magic to stabilize the earth and locked eyes with Logan, he realized that Clayton had caught on to the mine's true identity. An employed individual with extraordinary skills was aware of his secret. The best way to mitigate that was to make him a full ally. But how can I deal with a tower elder from the Mage Tower? Despite racking his brain, Logan couldn't find an answer immediately. All he could do was hope that Clayton would keep the secret to himself. As Logan was chewing on his lips, lost in thought. "Young Lord Logan, by any chance, would you happen to need a tower for your territory?" "What?" To Logan's astonishment, Clayton, who seemingly didn't fit his fierce appearance, threw out an unexpected suggestion. "What do you mean, by that?" Caught off guard by the subject of his concerns approaching him first, Logan couldn't help but feel perplexed. "I feel it is about time to become independent. As you've seen, my relationship with the current Tower Master isn't good. And for young Lord Logan, or rather this territory, it seems to have ample resources to nurture a small tower." Clayton's eyes, sweeping the surroundings, radiated both greed and hope. Own a tower? Not many territories within the kingdom had their own mage tower. At first glance, having a mage tower seemed beneficial to the territory, but in reality, there were many difficulties. Normally, mages from towers wouldn't get involved unless there was a war. Typically, they were no more than a money-consuming entity. That's why, when mages were absolutely necessary, most territories would request assistance from other towers. But now, with war looming next year, it's definitely a benefit. Logan recalled the giant golems that Clayton had demonstrated at the dam construction site. While they may not be suitable for combat, a premise he thought applied when facing knights, there were indeed countless ways to utilize such monsters in war. If we have magic crystals, they become much stronger, right? Turning his head slightly, Logan saw golems still carrying exhausted and shocked victims in each arm. Logan pondered various strategies on how to utilize them in war. It was a question that seemed to have a predetermined answer. "How much support do you need? Or rather, what do you need?" Logan was exceedingly proactive in his response, to the point where even Clayton, who had initiated the conversation, appeared taken aback. The cause of the mining accident was quickly revealed through Hammer's frank confession upon waking in the palace. "You fell asleep using a collapse scroll?" That's right. I've been overworking myself lately." Although Hammer turned his head away in embarrassment even while lying down, Logan couldn't blame him. After all, he was the one who had overworked him. "Don't worry. We can resume construction soon. Better yet, take a week off and fully rest." "No, until you fully recover, just completely. I can shake it off and get up in a day." "What?" "What?" Their gazes awkwardly crossed while hearing unexpected words from each other. "Did you say to rest? Did you say it's okay not to rest?" I will rest. I definitely will rest." Afraid of the possibility of a different response, Hammer shouted as if screaming for his life. Logan patted his shoulder, gave a bitter smile, and turned around. Dwarf, confused by his master's retreating back, was spinning one hand around his head. After Logan left Hammer's room and closed the door behind him, he saw Clayton waiting outside. During a time when the few healers of the rural territory were too busy attending to the injured miners, Clayton healed Hammer with earth magic. Though it was not his specialty and merely rejuvenated his vitality, Logan bowed to him once more in gratitude. Thank you for your help. Thanks to you, we've saved the lives of Hammer and the other miners. Clayton's features softened into a gentle smile in response to the sincere thanks. It's natural to help save lives. There's no need to thank me for anything so expected. False modesty isn't necessary. You've done a commendable act. I will not only express my thanks, but also make sure to compensate you sufficiently. Haha, it's fine. For such a small matter. You don't have money, do you? A cough! Caught off guard in the middle of the pleasantries, Clayton choked and coughed. Just using the symbol of your school golem magic costs a fortune each time. First blow. And it's difficult to justify its combat utility because its cost effectiveness is so poor. Second blow. Since it's not a lineage that can produce artifacts, the tower is always in the red. Third blow. In the end, supporting large-scale construction like this becomes your specialty, and that's why the Earth Tower keeps sending you out. Blunt words from Logan hit Clayton hard. Why, young lord, why such talk all of a sudden? Seeing that resentful look, Logan chuckled lightly. That's why you mentioned the tower, right? Kim, well, that may be so, but... Despite looking out of place, Clayton indeed seemed like an honest and good person. Logan allowed a natural smile to spread without restraining it. Then let me ask again. Are you and your disciples, including yourself, Sir Clayton, suggesting you'll settle down in our territory? Of course. As I've said, I welcome it. However, I'm a bit concerned whether you can part with the Earth Tower without any issues. That's no problem at all. That dog, no, Tower Master will be pleased. There won't be any issues, definitely. Clayton's answer was firm, and Logan nodded with a smile. There was still one crucial question left. So, how much support do you require? Ha ha ha. I just need it to be better than what I received from the Earth Tower. That goes without saying, but isn't there anything else you wish for? It was an offer of recruitment that they hadn't hoped for. Logan was ready to open his purse strings as much as needed. But I trust in young Lord Logan's character and abilities. Just provide me with whatever is reasonably necessary. Really? Praise that even the person in question couldn't understand. Logan's bewildered face and Clayton's smiling visage were the warm end to their conversation. When did you secretly start developing a mine without telling me? Even the workers there didn't know what kind of mine it was? Dwayne blocked Logan's path, his eyes blazing with fire. The key miners were acquired from the Teslan Palace, and the main house was not informed. Thinking it better they didn't know, he had deliberately kept it a secret. Aha! Logan pretended to remember only then, smacking his palm with an O. Sorry, I forgot. How could you forget such a thing? It happens. I've been busy, you know. Grrr. Fine. Then just answer this. What kind of mine required so much attention? Are the deposits large? Iron? Copper? Dwayne ground his teeth, yet Logan was struck with a sudden playful impulse. Why do you think it's one of those? Take another guess. Young lord, as the steward in charge of finances, I have a duty to inspect the income for the future of the territory. Please stop joking and just tell me. It could be a silver or gold mine, you know. Who can say? Maybe even diamonds or mithril. That's impossible. With our standing. Ah! What's wrong with us, man? Logan, momentarily angered, managed to maintain his composure and casually replied, It could be. Don't kid me. Really? Could such fortune befall this cursed family? Seeing the demoralized steward, Logan felt a further urge to tease. In truth, it's just a copper mine. Might last for 3 years of mining? I knew it. I knew that's what it was. Damn, what's the expected profit? What about 1 billion gold a year? Huh? 1 million gold a year. But why bother mining for that? Not a million, a billion. 1 billion gold, huh? Are you still joking around? What copper mine? It's a gold mine. Sorry. Logan watched expectantly for a reaction, but Dwayne just pursed his lips and glared at him. Why are you looking at me like that? It's true this time. Really? Yes. Really. Yes, really. Truly, really? Yeah, really. Finally, Logan's loud affirmation convinced Dwayne, who seemed to have snapped back to reality. Hoof. Dwayne? Whoa! The dazed Dwayne suddenly screamed, "Young lord!" "You're not lying, right? If this is a lie, I swear I'll just grab a knife and end it." "You're telling me it's really a gold mine?" "Yes, that's right. Wah! We're saved. Praise the ancestors. Praise MacLine. How can such fortune come to this cursed family?" And there you go, cursing us again. But Dwayne seemed oblivious as he went on shouting, thank you, young lord, I bow to you. No, double bowing isn't polite, is it? What does it matter? Accept my bow." Amidst his raucous joy, Logan looked at him with delight. I should have told him countier. A vassal so joyful over the improvement of the family's finances, which wasn't even his own money. He couldn't help but feel pleased as a high-grade noble of the family. There was just one thing that bothered him. The gold mine is on my private land, right? It belongs to me, not the family. And he had no intention of giving the entirety of the profits to the family. However, now I don't have to rack my brain over non-existent budgets. Funding from Kairos? Toss it to the dogs, you wretched beasts! Wah! I offer my thanks to the 9 superhuman gods who watch over the world. I will live honorably from now on. Watching the administrator, calling upon gods seldom invoked, roaring out loud, Logan found it difficult to break the news to him. Well, I'll tell him later. He's so happy like that. With Logan's smile, a complex and turbulent day came to a gentle close. Regressor of the Fallen Family. Chapter 49. A week later, Hammer stood up from his sickbed. I'll do my best to make up for the lost time, he said. His complexion, markedly improved from before his injury, Hammer set about the construction schedule at a pace that surprised even Logan. Everything naturally progressed smoothly, according to plan, much faster than Logan had anticipated. What? Already? Yes, we've already opened the tunnel you mentioned and connected the waterway to the Luther River. The sluice is nearly full. In just 3 months. The construction expected to take 6 months was completed in only 3. Overjoyed by the news, Logan rushed to see the sluice brimming with water himself and could not hide his admiration. Of course, the water level will not rise above that of the Luther River. It will only fill up to the depth we've dug the tunnel. Wow, it actually worked. What? A sincere exclamation of surprise escaped Logan's lips, shocking the dwarf who had heard him. Lo, Lord, what did you just say? The larger one. Didn't you say you've seen a bigger dam built by humans? That's right. And now, it actually worked? Logan had indeed seen it in the future, but was unable to prove it. So what's the problem if it worked? He simply responded with a bright smile. Huh? You were bluffing. I almost died because of that. Ah, hey, today you die, then I die. Let go. Let me go, mage. This ends to Gah. Ha ha. Even so, this was a valuable experience, wasn't it, Master Hammer? Using human strength to tunnel through a mountain and guide water through it. I thought it would have been more realistic to just shave off the mountain. Clayton, with a haggard look as pale as Hammer, held the struggling dwarf and smiled at Logan. Logan responded with a hearty laugh. Ha ha ha! You've really outdone yourself, Sir Clayton. Ugh, all right, Hammer. Of course I know you've worked hard. Well done. Ugh. Yes, I know. You're the #1 contributor. Logan once again realized that the combination of a dwarf and an earth magician was the best team for large-scale construction work. Honestly, I thought it could fail, but it had ended up cutting the expected duration by more than half. This construction project was the only one since his regression that Logan had not been entirely sure would succeed. Now that it had been resolved so successfully, everything seemed to be on a positive track, lifting his spirits. Then Hammer, having narrowly escaped from the magician's firm grasp, asked with a grumpy face, So, when do you plan to do it? If it's as expected, any time before winter should be fine. My disciples are helping, so the waterway work will be done in a few days. Then why wait? Call all the hard-working workers together. They all need to see it, to see what they achieved. The number of workers involved in the construction was nearly 8,000. All of them were robust adult men, in other words, the resources that would support him in future wars, to instill confidence and patriotism in them. That was another goal Logan intended through this construction project. 3 days later, as the irrigation work was completed, the workers climbed up the ridge at Logan's command. What's this noise? Water? You're saying there's water over there? I saw it. There's definitely water inside. Then did we really dig the waterway? Still, it can't be enough water for all that vast land. Murmurs rose among the crowd. Thousands of people standing on a hillside overlooking a wasteland woven with a dense network of irrigation channels harbored skepticism. And even less pleased were the administrative officials of the territory called out unexpectedly. They were present to see the land's transformation and reflected in their administration, as Logan had willed. But the officials didn't respond positively. This is quite something, literally a monumental waste of effort. The bald head in charge of food supply, Rugal Hayes, clicked his tongue as he looked at the drawn water channels across the wasteland. With these men, we could have repaired the southern wall instead, especially with the monster wave that might come this winter. The portly wall supervisor, Lupin, was already worried about the disaster that occurred irregularly every 5 to 10 years. Why go to such lengths? I don't know either. Administrators who were unaware of the details of the construction were equally pessimistic. However, unexpectedly, Dwayne, who had been the most opposed to the construction, looked down the mountain with hopeful eyes. This isn't just a one-time watering. It's directly connected to the Luther River. The irrigation channels meant continuous water supply, which could turn the vast wasteland into rich fields if the land was well managed. That was the potential promise he saw. An uncontrollable mix of rational skepticism and hopeful excitement made his heart race. As everyone watched the scene below with their own thoughts, Logan turned to his side with eyes full of anticipation. Sir Clayton, let's begin. We've worked hard to make it possible for the workers to adjust the sluice gates. Do we really have to do this? Ugh. Hammer, turned grumbler by the construction process, complained, but Clayton nodded in silence. Rumble, rumble. Simultaneously, a giant golem rose from below the fields. Whoa! What is that? Yikes! Scared me. Well, it's magic we've seen plenty of before. The frightened administrators nearly stumbled on their feet from surprise, but soon realized that, aside from themselves, no one else was startled, and they sheepishly closed their mouths. Open the gate! With Clayton's booming command, the golem stomped toward the sluice. Then the golem tried to lift the wall-like sluice. Grind, grind, grind. The vibration reached the ridge, tension visible in everyone's eyes. But then, why isn't it moving? What's going on? Despite several vibrations, there were no significant changes to the sluice. Doubtful eyes turned to the sweating magician. What are you doing? Are you playing around? Clayton, lips tightly sealed as if using ventriloquism, muttered quietly, causing the dwarf to wave his hands in confusion. No, I definitely told them to open it, but how could this? In truth, the golem's show of strength was just that, a show. In reality, about 100 workers had gathered to manually open the sluice with a winch due to its heavy weight. This unexpected hindrance was not part of Logan's plan. What's going on here? Logan, maintaining a calm expression despite the surrounding attention, used ventriloquism with menacing eyes. I'm sorry. Something seems to have gone wrong. Hammer bowed his head, drenched in sweat. Without descending to check, there was no immediate solution. At that moment, Logan, abandoning his dignity, grimaced and shouted, Sir Clayton, destroy it. Excuse me? If the sluice breaks, we can rebuild it. Just break it down. Logan could not let his carefully prepared plan fail at this point. At this moment, Logan's face was more than just a matter of pride. It would become the foundation of trust from his subjects and bureaucrats in the future. It was better to demolish the sluice than to ruin that. Of course, the key figure who would suffer the consequences, Hammer, turned pale. Yes, understood. Clayton's response was immediate. Though lifting the gigantic sluice was impossible, destroying it was not difficult. Bang! Boom! Crash! With consecutive strikes from the giant golem, the sluice began to crack. Crash! Soon enough, with a loud noise, the sluice crumbled. The sluice shattered, sending huge clumps of stone into the air, overwhelmed by the vast gush of water spilling toward the wasteland. Everyone gasped at the enormous stream that swept even the golem down the fields. The water, drenching the entrance to the wasteland and flowing along the irrigation canals, showed no signs of slowing down for some time. When at last the water began to subside slightly, a mighty cheer erupted from the people. Wow! Water! It's water! Truly water! Ha 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 ha! Thank God, thank you so much. We really did it. This vast land. Yes, we did it! We did it! Ha ha ha! The exhilarated voices filled the expanse that would soon be called the New MacLine Plains. Tartar Logan, too, joined in cheering as he watched the water flow across the wasteland. Or rather, knowing the crises to come in the future, he was even happier. This will solve the food issue during the Civil War. Food prices would skyrocket the moment a civil war broke out. Therefore, stockpiling food in advance was critical, to such an extent that hoarding food might attract unwanted attention. The MacLine have hoarded a lot of food, haven't they? Then we'll hit them first. In the worst case, they could become a prime target before the Civil War even began. Thus, the development of a productive plane was the best outcome, resolving those worries in one strike. Of course, it'll be a problem if word gets out. 1 year was too short for rumors of this barren territory to spread throughout the kingdom. Besides, there's no hurry to cultivate the land. We can start farming next spring. Before that, Logan, content with a proud smile, was organizing his future plans when a tearful, broad-shouldered man suddenly embraced him. Ugh! Dwayne? Master, I was really wrong. I apologize. It's okay. Dwayne helped out later, right? Sniff? But if I had cooperated sooner... It's okay, really. How can such a big man cry so much? Although Dwayne made quite a scene, among those who hugged and cheered, a few shed tears as well. Then, as the wave of emotion slightly subsided, now's the time. Logan, rallying his strength, roared loudly. I will permit anyone who wishes to cultivate the New MacLine Plains. The eyes of everyone present, especially the workers, poured upon him. And for that cultivated land, I will give tenancy, and the tax will be only 30%. This I, Logan MacLine, publicly declare. His voice echoed across the vast wilderness, and the response was an overwhelming cheer. Wow! Master! Thank you. So, having shouted this, now even the nobles can't oppose. Amidst the throng's gratitude and cheers, Logan smiled satisfactorily as he watched his pleased retainers. But there was one person, or rather one dwarf, who was in despair amidst the jubilation. The sluice. How many days will it take to rebuild? Worry not, dwarf friend. I will help again. It'll be faster since we've done it before. No consolation from his human friend, who had become close over the past few months, could alleviate the dwarf's deep disappointment. However, there's no rush for the sluice. Rest for a week. Then we'll wrap up the mining work and take a long vacation, all right? Logan, slightly buoyed, mentioned a vacation, which instantly changed the morose Hammer's expression. Really? Of course. Thank you, master. Only then did Hammer join the joyous celebration, his face flushed with elation. After that, there's a mountain of work to do. Better smile while you can. The cruel master, who had coerced his workers into half a year of relentless labor and still received thanks, concealed his insidious intentions with a crooked smile.